Hello, everyone. Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to another episode of the Back of the Pack podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Walker. Thank you for tuning in. So I'm gonna let you know. I'm just right out of the gates here. This is proof that anyone can podcast, and you do not have to be a smart person to do this. So before I record an episode, I like to get myself a little cup of coffee, get myself a little Java, a little caffeine going through the system. Know what I'm saying? It just, a little something warm helps the voice, these golden tones or whatnot. So I went upstairs to leave the podcast studio and make myself a little cup of coffee. Here, I got my see right here. There it is. Yep, there's the cup of coffee. So I go up there and I get everything going and I get the system all fired up and I get my drink doctored up and I hit the button to start and then I go and do something else because my system takes a few minutes to brew. When I come back, there's coffee everywhere. It's all over the counter. It's all over the machine. It's all over the place. It's dripping onto the floor. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what happened? Is my coffee machine broken? Is it clogged? Is there an issue somewhere? Well, there is an issue somewhere. The issue is I didn't put the cup underneath the coffee dispensing part. I left the cup sitting on the counter, like behind me. So that is how I started this podcast. Yep, that's exactly how it happened. So if you ever wondered if you have to be an insanely smart person to podcast in any way, shape, or form, clearly the answer is no. And exhibit A through Z sits right here before you. Ta-da! And on that great note, I'm going to try and get you to do more stuff to support the podcast because, why not? Because I'm clearly not an intelligent person. But hey, the YouTube channel is done. It is finished, man. Like every episode we have ever done, all 86 of them are on the YouTube channel and they are waiting for you to go out there and like them and comment on them and subscribe to the page and subscribe to the channel, as it's called. So pretty please, they are all out there now. And this episode will go up here today as soon as I'm done recording. But go onto YouTube and go to the Back of the Pack podcast. Make sure you look for our new logo. The old Imposter channel is still up there. Of course, it's doing nothing because it doesn't have us in which to make it awesome. So it's clearly not awesome anymore. So don't go to the old Imposter one. You want to go to the new one with the new logo that you've seen all over the social medias. So go and give that channel a subscribe. We're only 10 subscribers away from where we left off on the old channel. So we're almost back. Let's get there, then let's surpass it. And we'll try and get YouTube, going, get it all, I don't know, super fun and going and whatever you do with YouTube. Maybe someday YouTube will pay us to do this. We'll go with that. That would be super duper great. I'm going to go ahead and hold my breath now. No. All right. So this past weekend, we had a lot of races going on. I was at the Loggerhead Half Marathon in Ottawa, Kansas. So down there, and this is just right off the top here, a huge congratulations to Logan. It was his first marathon, full marathon. Now, how do I know this young man? I know this young man because I went to school with his mother. And yes, one of my contemporaries has an adult child. This is not okay because see, I'm not old enough to have an adult child. So I know she's not old enough to have an adult child, yet there's an adult child like in this picture here, and it's messing with my head a little bit. I mean, never mind the gray hairs and the receding hairline. That doesn't matter. We still should not have grown children. But no, her son, Logan, ran his first full marathon. Sounded like he did great from what I've seen on social media, but a huge congratulations to him because that is no small achievement. I could not even fathom in my early 20s. At that point, I probably didn't even know what a marathon was. I would have been one of those guys like a marathon. Is that one of those little mile race or whatever? 5K marathon. Yeah. See, I would have been one of those guys. I had no idea back in my early 20s. And here, this kid is knocking it out. This man. So congratulations to you. Your first full marathon done. Did the Loggerhead that I was at. I love the Loggerhead race. Not going to lie. I really enjoy that race. So everything I say after this, please know that it comes from the place of, I like this race. I like it a lot. But for whatever reason, this darn race has my number, and I cannot figure out why. It does not make sense that I do as poorly at this race as I do. So I've done it 2 years in a row. And this year, I improved on last year by about 2.5 minutes. But overall, it's like middle of the pack in my all-time half marathon, time. Because yes, I have the spreadsheet. My fastest time is at the top and my slowest time is at the bottom. And then I just move and insert cells in the middle, and I put in where, the newest race was in the timeline there. It adjusts the average over on the right side, because yes, I even made a formula to come up with average because I'm a dork. And so, yeah, last year and this year, separated by only 2.5 minutes, and they're just right there in the middle of the pack. There's something about this race that gets me. You would think after last week, I set a PR in a 10K. Well, you set a PR in a 10K, heck, you're halfway to setting a PR and a half marathon. So just go ahead and go set that PR and a half marathon. Nope, didn't happen. Wasn't even close. Did not even flirt with the PR. I knew pretty quickly it just wasn't going to happen. And I'll tell you, this year it was kind of my fault. And this goes back to something that Cody and I were talking about on our little road trip back from Texas. And it's not that I showed up to the race defeated, because I didn't. I actually thought I would have a better time than I did. But we were running along, and bless her, there was a woman from Wichita, Kansas, and she just stayed right behind me. And there were no pacers. I'm no pacer. I'm too inconsistent to be a pacer. Credit to you pacers. I am not one. But she stayed behind me. I sped up. She was behind me. I slowed down. She was behind me. She finally told me, she's like, I am trying to use you as my pacer, so that she didn't go out too fast, or she didn't, try and overexpel herself a little too much. And like, okay, that's great. It didn't really bother me. It didn't bother me that she was doing it. The situation bothered me of, well, now I kind of feel like I'm being pressured here. Like, I've got the pressure of not only running for me, but now I'm running for this woman behind me, because she's using me so that she might have a better race. And I said to her at one point, and this was bad, I shouldn't have said this. I said to her, okay, well, yeah, but just know that I'm inconsistent and I'm just not feeling it today. Ooh. Now, was that true? Possibly. Should I have said it? Definitely not. Because what have we talked about? Showing up to a race, or even in the middle of a race, suddenly getting that mental defeat that I was, for whatever reason, that's an excuse. Oh, I'm not feeling it today. That's an excuse for, if I have a shit race, earmuffs kids, then I've already had my excuse. On mile 4, when I was talking to this woman, I said I didn't have it today. Okay, so if my race sucks, well, I'll be like, oh, well, see, I do it. Mile 4, I just didn't have it today. Ooh, that was an excuse. That was me just trying to deflect some of the responsibility that I was feeling at that time, because I felt a responsibility for both myself and her. And so I threw it out there. Yeah, I'm not feeling it today. And I don't even know what that means. Can any of us really voice what that means? What is it? It in the runner's world. Is it the motivation to go faster, farther, harder, whatever? I don't know. I would love to know what you guys think. If you know what it is, tell me, because sometimes I think I've got it figured out and sometimes I don't. And I'm thinking, is it the motivation? Is it your motivation to have your best race, your motivation to put forth all the effort you can? We've all been to races and not put forth maximum effort. We've certainly gone to races and just him-hawed around. We gave it 75%. Heck, we might even give it 90%. But how many races can you look at and be like, I went all out. I put all the chips in the middle of the table. I gave it everything I had, where I was near collapse when I got to the finish line. We can't say that every race. Not all of us who are at, 11 billion races a season. That's just not how it works out. So, hey, if you know what it is, share it, because I don't. And I can't figure it out. All I know is my it was an excuse for the pressure that I felt during that race. Now, ultimately, did her using me as a pacer for about half the race, did that affect my finishing time at all? No, not at all. Because when I finally got to the point where I knew my pace was going to slow too much and I wanted to take my little 30-second walk break, she continued on. She said thank you, and away she went. I didn't catch her name. I caught that she was from Wichita. Looked like she had a good race, and good on her. But yeah, so the it thing, and that bothered me. That thing, that rattled around my brain for the rest of the race. So I don't know. I'm sure we've all kind of been in that situation, and just proof to show, doesn't matter how long you've been running, we can still put ourselves in the same dumb mental situation. And that's kind of what I felt like I did. Put myself in a dumb mental situation. But anyway, that was my loggerhead. Again, great race, organized well. There are certainly runner gripes that people can have, and that people have had, and that I have seen addressed on the Book of Faces, and that's fine. Runner gripes are legitimate. They didn't downgrade this race in my estimation at all. I still enjoy this race. I still think it is well done. It's difficult. It's a difficult race. You can't close every street in Ottawa that crosses over this big trail that they use. The Prairie Spirit Trail is what you run on. Yeah, there's a lot of places where the cars go over it. But like they said before the race started, the people of Ottawa are aware. They know when they're coming up to that trail crossing, they're looking for people, runners, bikers, walkers, kids, whoever might be using that trail. They're all looking out. So even though not every street was protected by volunteers and or police, I never once felt like there was danger. The situation never bothered me. It is a flat as a pancake, out and back. If you look at my Strava, it's just a ridiculous straight line. Up and down. That's it. That's all that race is. There are no twists. There are no turns. There's no ups. There's no downs. It is just a flat, straight race. And it's gotten me 2 years in a row. And it's going to bug me. So it means I have to go back next year. Not that I wasn't already planning to, but now I have to, because we're going back for what? Redemption Take 2. Had the first one. This was Redemption Take 1. Didn't really get it. 2.5 minutes. Meh. So it's Redemption Take 2 next year at Loggerhead. But as you can see, and I'm wearing it today, so if you're on the YouTube channel, which hopefully you're subscribing to right now, you get to see we've got the hoodie, the Loggerhead hoodie, super comfortable, nice color. It's kind of a, I don't know, would you call this an orange? It's almost a salmon kind of color. Either which way, the hoodies are one of the biggest reasons why people do this race, because the hoodies are awesome. So I'm rocking my Loggerhead hoodie. It is great. Also ran into a woman there from Baltimore, and I hope I don't mess up her name. I want to say her name was Corinne. Corinne from Baltimore was running her 50th half marathon, even had a little sign on her shirt, in her 27th state. And so to her, great job. Saw you on the trail. You were rocking it. It was a pleasure to talk to you before the race. Thank you so much for coming to Kansas. Home sweet home for me. I know that she was going to complete that half marathon. Then she and her traveling companion were hopping in a car, and they were going down to Tulsa, Oklahoma for the Route 66 marathon. So let's talk about the Route 66 marathon. Took place in Tulsa, Oklahoma. To Fast Eddie, got your first sub 3 hour full marathon. You're ridiculous, and I hate you. I mean, no, sorry, that came out wrong. Congrats, Eddie. Well done. Good job, you fast runner. You. I couldn't even dream of a sub 3 hour full marathon. But Eddie went down there and crushed it. I know we had a few other people. Bethany was down there. She did I think it was her first. Pretty sure you said first. Her first full marathon at the Route 66 in Tulsa. That was my first marathon, so many years ago. So I actually kind of forgotten that race was this weekend. So it really just occurred to me that I have just crossed my 12-year full marathon anniversary. Because, yeah, it was 2011. I did the full marathon for the Route 66 in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Great race, great environment. Highly recommend that race to anyone, especially if you want a full. So what they will do for your full, if it's your first, and if you tell them it's your first, if you mark that on your registration, they have special medals that will say my first marathon kind of a thing. And it might be a different color than the medal that everyone else gets, but they will give you a medal to commemorate that is your first full marathon. So that's what I have. It's kind of on the wall behind me. Can you see? Oh, yeah, it's right there in the middle of my cap. It's kind of that gold one there. But yeah, gold is the color they use for the first full marathon. Boy, say that 3 times fast. I can't even say it once, clearly. So yeah, that's a really cool feature that Route 66 has. I cannot talk today. Maybe I shouldn't be podcasting. You know what? It's the coffee. It's the coffee thing. That's what's happening right now. The coffee got me. Jeez Louise. Okay, so we have talked Loggerhead. We have talked Route 66. Here in town, there was also Gobbler Grind. I know a lot of people in the Run fam were out at Gobbler Grind. I've done that race several times. They have all the distances. At least, I don't know. At one point in time, they got rid of the full marathon. I'm not sure if it's back or if it's still just 5, 10 and a half. I'd have to look into it. Either which way, you can normally find what you want to do at Gobbler Grind. That takes place in Corporate Woods, where the Casey Hustle Run was back in September. And again, been there, done that. Great event, well run. A lot of people showed up to it. A lot of the people we know who listen to the show. Good job out of you, whatever distance you did. So it was a busy weekend here right before Turkey Day. Now, I understand. It's Monday, because that's when I record. It's Monday. That's when I release the episode. This Monday, I imagine we're just going to slightly get beat in the ratings by Monday Night Football, which is the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Little important for some of us here in town, a wee bit. So some people might miss the episode as it debuts to watch the football game. I will allow it this once, but I hope the views are close. I hope we're pretty close to the audience of Monday Night Football watching the podcast, but I understand if our numbers are down a little bit. We also are going to never mind that this is now a holiday week. It's only coming up to Thanksgiving. No big deal. Thanksgiving is in a couple days now. Jeez Louise. I kind of feel like for the year, once you get to Thanksgiving, that's like that last turn. If you're a race car person, it's turn 4, where then you see the straightaway that will take you all the way down to the finish line. We are now in the future because I had to pause for a second, had to address something, and it wasn't overflowing coffee. It was definitely not that. So anyway, like I said, this is the final turn as we're like in the last turn coming down to the end of the year. The home stretch, the finish line is in sight. We're now that last sprint to the end of the year, with now Thanksgiving coming up here in a couple days. Then we're into the Christmas season, the holiday season, whatever season you celebrate. But that is the final stretch towards the end of the year. That's crazy. Of course, we have so much stuff still coming up. We have our trip to Memphis for the St. Jude Marathon weekend, Memphis Marathon weekend. There's also, of course, holiday-themed races all over town. So we're not done yet. We're not done yet by any stretch, but we're working on it. We're coming down to the nitty-gritty of 2023. And then, of course, 2024 is just going to be off the hook. So I hope you guys are all ready for that. We're talking Little Rock Marathon. We're talking potential Chicago Marathon. We're talking Berlin Marathon. And then we're talking any of the other nonsense that we're going to get into between, I don't know, January 1st, 2024, and then the last day of the year in 2024. It's going to be wild. So hopefully everyone is ready. We're ready for the ride here on the podcast and here on the race courses and everywhere else in between. So let's have a great 2024, because it's coming whether we like it or not. So as I said, and again, I know we've got Chiefs football, we've got holidays, you probably got family in town, you might be traveling, who knows, maybe you're going to listen to a whole bunch of podcast episodes from the Back of the Pack podcast as you're traveling to grandma's house for Thanksgiving. Whatever your situation is, totally great. But we're just going to have a little bit of fun here on this particular episode because we have Thanksgiving coming up. So let's talk about Thanksgiving. So it always gets on our minds, right? Like a lot of us, we go out on Thanksgiving Day morning and we'll run a race. I am signed up for the Ward Parkway 5K. So I will be running a 5K that morning. And then I'm going to go to our annual football game. We have a little two-hand touch football game that we have played in, 25 years, something like that. Every Thanksgiving morning for about 25 years, we play this game. Now, yeah, it has previously been my friend group, and it used to be an uber competitive thing 25 years ago or 20 years ago, or whatever the case might be. But nowadays, really, the second generation is kind of taken over. Now our kids play harder than we do, and we're just kind of the old guys, and not old ladies, but the old guys, and then the lovely ladies who give us the time of day are just kind of standing around, and we'll play a little, but that's really just our time to shoot the breeze while the kids are epically trying to have this wonderful game. And so it's funny how things have changed over time. But yeah, so that's my Thanksgiving Day. I hope you guys are going to all have a good one. But let's talk about Thanksgiving real quick, because I did find kind of a fun article here. And what it says is, stop worrying about, quote unquote, running off Thanksgiving dinner. So yes, we're going to talk about food, because man, it is almost time for some Thanksgiving food, which is one of my most favorite things ever. All right, so here's what we say. And this is, of course, from Runner's World from Ashley Mateo. Running isn't a punishment, and all food is fuel, even that third helping of turkey and gravy. Now, I am going to let you know this article was written during the Rona. So if there's any Rona references, just ignore those, throw them out. And because we don't have to worry about that this year. All right, every year around the holidays, that tired joke of having to run off Thanksgiving dinner rears its ugly head. It's the kind of aside that's become so normalized, we don't even think about how harmful the inherent food shaming can be. Food shaming? You can't food shame me. Not on Thanksgiving. I'm going to eat it all, every little bit of it. I'm going to have turkey and mashed potatoes and everything else, and it's going to be great. Because let's get this out of the way right off the bat. There's no reciprocal relationship between food and running. The idea that if you run more, you can eat more, or if you run less, you should eat less, is totally false. That twisted thought pattern implies that you have to earn your food, or that running is punishment for eating. Nope. We run because we love to run. and we eat in a way that fuels our runs. It's as simple as that. So that's one of the main reasons. I'm sorry, my nose is just that I chose this article because, yeah, especially around the holidays, and I'm guilty of this as well. We will oftentimes look at running as a punishment. Like, oh man, I had more pumpkin pie than I wanted to. I better go for a run. It's not a punishment. Again, we do this because we're psychopaths. I mean, because we love doing it. But yeah, we do it because we want to, not because we're just trying to work off the food. We joke about it a lot. But in all honesty, that's not exactly where we're at. So, eating is not a moral issue, says Nancy Clark, RD, author of Nancy Clark's Sports Nutrition Guidebook, and a weight coach for ultra runners and marathoners. Food is fuel, and there's no such thing as good food or bad food. There's a balanced diet and an unbalanced diet, and one meal does not throw off that balance. Aha. Same goes for the idea that holiday foods such as fat-infused gravy and sugar-laden pumpkin pie are quote-unquote bad, and indulging in them is bad behavior. Food cannot be good or bad, as every food contains some content of nutrients that our body needs to function appropriately, says another doctor, an assistant professor of nutrition. Let's see, that kind of thinking any time of the year, but especially now during the holidays or amid a global pandemic, see, I knew they were going to reference it, creates a sense of guilt and shame around eating, something that's meant to be enjoyed or necessary for function. And that's an especially crappy way to feel around Thanksgiving. Amen. Right on. When you're quite literally celebrating the abundance of a harvest, says Dorothy Beale. Yeah, that's true. We are kind of celebrating that, so we should not feel bad about eating. Get out of my way, pop-up ad. Eating whatever your heart desires a couple of times a year isn't going to hurt you, she says. I'd argue that the stress and anxiety linked to the shame and guilt an individual feels surrounding those indulgences do more harm to your body than just eating whatever you want, enjoying it, and moving forward. Yes, the average American may consume more than 4,500 calories and a whopping 229 grams of fat from snacking and eating a traditional holiday dinner with turkey and all the trimmings, according to research. The reality is, you're probably not consuming that many calories, and even if you did, consuming more than the needed amount of calories in one day due to a holiday meal will not negatively impact your health in any way. Part of normal eating is overeating and feeling stuffed and uncomfortable. That's how your body learns where your limits are. And part of normal eating is also trusting that your body will compensate for any overindulgences. Think about the last time you stuffed yourself on Thanksgiving turkey, gravy, and potatoes. You probably weren't even hungry the next day. If you listen to your body and its cues, you'll realize that it can course correct on its own. Instead of burning off those excess calories, just don't consume another 4,500 calories. Easy. And if you like, get in your normal run, walk, and with the family, or enter a turkey trot, but do so because it'll make you feel great to exercise that day, not to run off your meal. Again, that's why I do my runs in the morning. I do the race in the morning because I like to, and I get to see people I know out there. It's not punishment for what I'm going to do later that day. And trust me, I'm going to do it. Instead of obsessing over what you ate and how to bring your body back to normal afterward, put food and structured exercise at the bottom of the priority list. Holidays are meant to connect and grow relationships, so I always encourage people to incorporate activity with others during the holidays. Go for walks with grandparents, explore the outdoors with nieces and nephews, and engage in friendly competitions with siblings. All are great ways to be active. Again, or play football with your friends that you've known since high school when you're old and you guys just hurt yourselves. Whatever happens at the meal, don't dwell on it. You may feel terrible, that's okay. Move your body, eat nourishing foods, drink more water, get some sleep, and think about the happy memories you made to help get back to a state where you feel like yourself. Leave shame out of it. You can't change what you ate or drank, but you can learn from it. When you lie in bed that night, instead of beating yourself up, just evaluate what went right with the day and what went wrong. How could you have eaten better or differently, and what might you want to do next time? Were you trying to distract yourself from your feelings with food, or were you having fun and just enjoying yourself? That may help you identify habits that can make you feel better. Here's a nice, I can't believe a typo made in there. Make you feel better. Let's see. Wow. Okay. Yeah, they butchered that one. Anyway, she finishes up by saying, I stuffed myself and would do it again because every bite was worth it. Either way, you win. So again, that's just a real easy, simple article, but I liked it because we do oftentimes look at our diets and look at our foods, and especially around the holidays, and we feel that we then have to run or exercise or do whatever. And again, we think of it as punishment. It's punishment for enjoying a day. So I've been guilty of this. I am sure you guys at some point in time have been guilty of this, unless you have come around to a very enlightened view of, no, it's not punishment, it's celebration. And we are allowed to celebrate. Now, as anything, and again, we know this. Last year, we had a health professional on, and he talked about much the same thing. You can have your day, have Thanksgiving, and eat all that you want, and go back for seconds and have turkey, trimmings, mashed potatoes, pumpkin pie, all of it. But that day, it's when that, we can call it a cheat day if you want to be real strict about it, but it's when cheat day becomes cheat weekend, becomes cheat week, becomes cheat month. That's when there's problems. But I would say 99 times out of 100, we're not going to allow that to happen. We're going to have our day. And then by the weekend, I don't think there's a lot of races scheduled, but everyone's going to be back out for their long run or, whatever their normal weekend plan is. Because again, we're in the fall right now. Cold weather's coming. Like the nasty is coming. So you might as well do what you can now. Enjoy what you can now, because we know the weather's not going to hold forever. So yeah, even if you have Thanksgiving and even if you just eat to your little heart's content, get out there on the weekend and do your normal thing, and it's going to be forgotten in no time. So that's what I thought was really great about that article. There's no shame, there's no guilt. Have fun, do your thing, and then get back to normal afterwards. That's what we're all going to do. That's kind of how I normally do it. I've just normally felt bad about it or felt like I was obligated. Well, no, it's none of those things. I'm going to celebrate the day. I'm going to do what I want, and then I'm going to get myself back on track, because a week after Thanksgiving, we're going to Memphis. We got races to run and things to do. And all of this now is leading up towards Little Rock that so many of us are going to. And if you haven't seen, Little Rock just revealed their full marathon medals. And they're big, and they're dinosaurs, and now everybody wants one. So most of us are already signed up. If you're not signed up, get signed up, because we're all going to Little Rock, and I want to see you there. So I think that's going to do it here for our Monday Night Football / holiday edition of the Back of the Pack podcast. Again, please go subscribe to the new YouTube channel, and then make sure you're on our social medias, Instagram and Facebook, because I'm old. Those are still our big two things. And play along, because we just did Metal Monday. We do Metal Monday every Monday. On Thursday, we still have Race Shirt Thursday. Wear your favorite race shirt or your newest race shirt or whatever you feel like showing off. Take a selfie, show the group, let people ooh and ah over your awesome shirts, and then be like, ooh, I want to do that race. That race is a cool shirt. Because that's kind of what we do. And then, yeah, we're just going to keep on keeping on. And we're not taking a break anytime soon. We might take a break or take a week off around Christmas. Maybe. I don't know. Actually, because I think Monday's Christmas Day. Probably not going to release one on Christmas Day. But we got a few weeks to go before we get there. So that's what we're going to do. So anyway, this has been the Back of the Pack podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Walker. It is my pleasure, as always. Great job out of everyone who ran this weekend and all the people who did either their first full marathon or their 50th half marathon, or wherever you were on the scale. Good job out of you. Let's go run on Thanksgiving Day, take a weekend off, and then we're right back to it with, I believe, Memphis. Oh, that's really close. Oh, man. All right, everyone. Hey, we got good weather coming up. Great week of training. We'll see you next week.